Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely mind-boggling idea. The premise that our home Earth is the ultimate cosmic anomaly. Think about it. When you look out into the incredibly vast, seemingly endless expanse of the universe, our little blue world stands out as this incredibly rare exception to the normal rules of astrophysics. It's a total outlier. So, just pause for a second and ask yourself, what would Earth actually look like if there were absolutely no life on it at all? It's kind of a wild thought experiment, right? Without those vibrant forests, the complex oceans, or sprawling cities, our planet would literally just be another barren rock floating in space. It really hits home and highlights the sheer fragility of our living planet. Okay, let's dive into this, because when we talk about all this life, it's actually confined to a shockingly small space. From the very tallest mountain peak to the deepest, darkest ocean trench, literally all of life exists on this single layer called the crust. To put that into perspective, if you were to shrink the Earth down to the size of an apple, that crust would be proportionally as thin as the apple's skin. No way, right? That incredibly delicate little layer is our whole entire world. To understand exactly how this super thin layer sustains itself, our roadmap today takes us on a bit of a macro to micro journey. We'll start with Earth as the Goldilocks planet, then look at our life support systems, zoom into the continuity of life at the biological level, and finally, zoom way back out to examine the triple planetary crisis.
All right, Section 1, the Goldilocks planet.
Now, you might logically think, hey, the closer a planet is to the sun, the hotter it's gotta be, right? Well, actually, Venus is a blistering 450 degrees Celsius, which is way hotter than Mercury, even though Mercury is literally right next to the sun. The difference? It all comes down to the atmosphere. Mercury doesn't really have one, but Venus has this incredibly thick atmosphere that traps all the heat. So Earth's cozy, comfortable 15-degree average is completely 100% reliant on having just the right atmospheric balance. And this brilliantly illustrates why we have those perfect conditions. Earth sits perfectly inside what astrophysicists call the habitable zone, or, the Goldilocks zone. We are positioned at exactly the right distance from the sun. We're not too close, where our oceans would just boil away, and we're not too far, where everything would freeze solid into a giant ice cube. We sit exactly in that sweet spot where liquid water can exist. But positioning isn't the whole story. We also heavily rely on the natural greenhouse effect. Basically, certain gases in our atmosphere act like a giant thermal blanket. They absorb the radiation given off by the Earth after it gets warmed by the sun, effectively trapping that heat in. Without this natural heat-trapping phenomenon, all that precious liquid water would freeze solid, and Earth would be a totally icy wasteland. And to maintain that perfect atmosphere, well, size actually matters immensely. Think about it. If Earth were too small, kind of like Mars, our gravity would be too weak. It would just let our life-giving atmosphere escape right into the vacuum of space. But on the flip side, if we were way bigger, crushing gravity would make life as we know it completely impossible. We are quite literally the exact right size to hold on to those essential gases. Moving right along to Section 2, Earth's life support systems. You can kind of think of Earth as having these massive, invisible planetary shields. First up, we've got the atmosphere, giving us breathable oxygen, plus that crucial ozone layer blocking out cell-damaging UV rays. But, we also have a magnetic field. See, Earth is constantly getting bombarded by super dangerous solar winds and cosmic rays. Our magnetic field steps up as this massive deflector shield, literally pushing those harmful particles away so our atmosphere stays completely intact. It's an absolute game changer. Right beneath those shields, we find the hydrosphere. This is the water covering roughly 70% of Earth. And we're not just talking about a static puddle of water here. It is a powerful, active aquatic engine. Water is an incredibly powerful solvent. It dissolves and transports vital nutrients from the soil straight up into plant leaves. Plus, it acts like a giant global thermostat, regulating temperatures all over the planet to keep our environments nice and stable.
Then we have the geosphere. That's the solid outer layer of rocks, soil, and minerals. And actually, let me be super clear about this. The geosphere isn't just a bunch of dead dirt. Soil is this incredibly rich, dynamic foundation that's been created by the slow, millions of years breakdown of ancient rocks and organic stuff. It provides all the essential nutrients, things like nitrogen and potassium, that plants absolutely need to survive and grow. So, the crucial point is that all of these spheres totally interlock to create the biosphere,
The biosphere isn't just a random list of animals and plants. It is a giant teamwork project. It's a highly complex, self-regulating engine where land, water, air, and living beings are locked in this continuous, perfect chemical and biological exchange.
Which brings us to Section 3, the continuity of life.
Okay, so for the biosphere to persist over eons, biology basically relies on two main evolutionary strategies. On one hand, you have asexual reproduction, which is highly efficient. It lets a single parent rapidly pump out exact genetic clones of itself. But then you have sexual reproduction, which is honestly nature's ultimate adaptation tool. By combining genetic instructions from two different parents, it guarantees unique variations in every single generation. And that diversity is exactly what life forms need to adapt and survive when their environments change.
Let's move to the plant world and see how this builds in a really incredible sequence. It all kicks off with pollination, which usually relies on the wind or maybe some busy insects to bridge the gap. That leads straight to fertilization, which forms a zygote, literally the very first cell of a brand new life. From there, the flower actually transforms into a fruit. It acts as this tough biological shield for the seed until it's finally ready to grow into a brand new plant. How cool is that?
Now you might be wondering, wait a minute, if two parents are combining their instructions, wouldn't the offspring have double the genetic material? And wouldn't it just endlessly double with every single generation? Well, nature cleverly solved this with specialized reproductive cells called gametes, sperm and eggs. Gametes carry exactly half of a parent's genetic instructions. So when they combine, they form one complete single set of instructions for the new organism. It's like a perfectly balanced biological math equation.
And finally, let's zoom way back out for Section 4, the triple planetary crisis. Looking at the global scale, the source material starkly outlines three pillars of our current environmental situation. First, climate change. This is driven by the burning of fossil fuels, which releases locked carbon and artificially enhances that natural greenhouse effect we talked about, trapping excess heat. Second is biodiversity loss, where habitat destruction removes key species and destabilizes entire food chains. And third, pollution, the severe contamination of our water, air, and soil. So human actions are objectively impacting those incredibly interconnected systems that make Earth habitable in the first place. The global community has recognized these threats for a few decades now. For instance, the 1987 Montreal Protocol was a massive, systemic success that effectively reduced chemicals to protect the ozone layer, and it's actually recovering. However, subsequent global efforts, like the 1992 Earth Summit, the 2005 Kyoto Protocol, and the 2015 Paris Agreement, which set a goal to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, show a bit of a mixed picture. Objectively speaking, current data indicates the world is not on track to meet those temperature goals. All of this leaves us with one truly critical question. What small actions can you take today to protect the delicate balance of our incredible home planet? Because whether it's reducing waste or just shifting our daily consumption habits, every single action ripples through those interconnected spheres we just explored. We are the only known custodians of the universe's ultimate anomaly. Think about that for a while. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.